Work that was originally estimated at 2 months, Claude Code spins up multiple subagents on its own, up to 5 levels deep. It landed in V, with releases dropping 5 or 6 times a week.
Renka, have you seen the Claude Code changelog? It keeps growing. Sharina can't keep up at all.
Yeah, the June release rush started at V2, 160, and we're already up to 195.
35 versions in a single month. How many times a week are they releasing?
About 5 or 6 times a week, I'd say. You don't have to track every single one, but the big updates are worth knowing.
At this point, I can't even tell which ones are big anymore.
Then let's go through the June highlights together.
That'd be great.
There's the new model Fable 5, a new mode called ultracode. Some pretty interesting stuff this month.
Ultracode? I don't think I've heard of that one.
Let's go in order, starting with the most impactful one. Claude Fable 5, launched on June 9th.
Fable 5, I've seen the name around, but how much has it actually changed?
So there's a benchmark called SWE Bench Pro that measures coding ability. Fable 5 hits 83% on it.
How does that compare to Opus 4, 8 or GPT-5, 5?
It leaves both of them well behind. On Terminal Bench, it's hitting 88% as well.
Benchmark numbers alone are hard to get a feel for though.
Actually, there's a real-world example. Stripe used it for a payment infrastructure migration. Work that was originally estimated at 2 months was done in a single day.
2 months down to 1 day. Was it actually the same scope of work?
It's featured in the official announcement, so I don't think they're inflating the numbers. The API ID is Claude Fable 5. Pricing is $10 for input and $50 for output per million tokens.
What about the context length?
If you append 1M to the model name, you get a 1M context window.
Oh, I also came across something called Mythos 5. Is that a different thing?
Mythos 5 is an unfiltered model from the same generation, fewer restrictions. It's limited to partner companies through Project Glasswing, though, so it's not publicly available.
So for everyday use, just specify Fable 5 and you're good.
Let's talk about ultracode. We mentioned the name earlier.
That's the dynamic workflows thing, right? What does it actually do?
Claude Code spins up multiple subagents on its own and works on things in parallel. And once the work is done, it automatically handles result verification too.
So you don't have to build your own multi-agent framework from scratch?
Exactly. It ships as a first-class feature you can use directly from the CLI.
How do you launch it?
Either type /effort ultracode, or just include ultracode somewhere in your prompt.
Does it work outside the CLI too?
Yeah, it works in the desktop app and the VS Code extension as well. Max, Team, and Enterprise plans.
I'm having trouble picturing what it actually looks like in practice.
Say you ask it to write tests for every file in a directory. Normally it'd process one file at a time, but with ultracode, it first analyzes the whole picture. Then it dynamically generates an orchestration script and assigns a subagent to each file.
So agents just multiply on their own and run in parallel.
Right, and at the end, the parent agent pulls everything together and runs a consistency check across the results. There's one more big change tied to ultracode. Subagents can now spin up their own subagents.
So it's like nesting? How deep can you go?
Up to 5 levels deep. It landed in V2, 172, on June 10th.
5 levels? When would you even need that?
Say you hand off a large-scale refactor. A parent agent spins up subagents per module, and each of those subagents splits the work further by file.
So you can break tasks down hierarchically.
It's also a good fit for things like full code-base audits, or running security checks across everything at once.
Pair that with ultracode, and it could scale pretty far.
Right, ultracode fans out in parallel, and nesting lets you drill down in layers. With both of these in place, it's a lot easier to hand off genuinely complex work. Next, let me cover some improvements that aren't flashy, but make a real difference in day-to-day use. On June 25th, a new command called /rewind was added.
Conversations you cleared with /clear were just gone, right?
Right. Now you can roll them back with /rewind.
Finally, I've been devastated every time I accidentally hit /clear.
It takes you back to the state before the clear, so you can pick up the conversation where you left off. In the same version, CPU usage during streaming is also down by about 37%.
Yeah, I feel like my fan noise has actually been quieter lately.
Also, when a network error happens during MCP or OAuth token fetching, it'll now automatically retry once.
Transient connection drops stalling everything was a low-key pain, you know.
And if a remote MCP call hangs for more than 5 minutes, it gets automatically aborted.
Ah, the one where you'd wait forever and eventually have to kill it yourself.
None of these are headline features, but they all feed directly into a smoother daily experience. Next up is a feature that gives you peace of mind when running long-running processes. On June 6th, a new setting called fallbackModel was added.
Fallback, so it's like a backup in case the API errors out and things stop?
Right, when the main model returns an unexpected error, it automatically retries with a different model. And you can chain up to 3 fallback models in sequence.
So the idea is, line up 3 options and at least one of them should work.
It only retries once, so there's no risk of an infinite loop.
Like when you kick off a batch job in CI overnight and come back in the morning to find it stopped halfway through. That kind of thing becomes less likely?
Yeah, that's exactly the use case. It makes long-running processes and CI integrations less prone to dropping out midway.
Not flashy, but if you're the one actually running things in production, it's a really welcome addition.
Let's go over the safety improvements that came in this update. On June 19th, the behavior of auto mode changed.
Auto mode is the one that runs commands without asking for permission, right?
Right. Now it blocks destructive commands, unless you explicitly ask for them.
What counts as destructive exactly?
Things like git reset hard or push force. Commands that rewrite history. Destructive operations in Terraform, Pulumi, and CDK are also covered.
Infrastructure too. That could prevent some real production disasters.
Along the same lines, a new setting called Sandbox Credentials was added.
What does that protect?
It prevents shells inside the sandbox from reading credentials and secret environment variables.
So it stops things like API keys from leaking out unintentionally.
There's also an option called Auto Mode, Classify All Shell. When you enable it, every shell command gets routed through the classifier. Next, let me tell you about a new feature for Teams. On June 23rd, something called Claude Tag was announced.
Tag, like something that hooks into Slack.
Yeah, so, it's a native Slack multiplayer Claude. Each channel gets one persistent instance, and anyone can summon it with @Claude.
So it lives in the channel and responds whenever you mention it.
Right. No matter who on the team calls it, the same instance responds, so the context carries over.
So instead of everyone calling their own Claude, the whole team shares one instance.
Apparently Anthropic uses it internally too. They said 65% of their product team's code is generated from the internal version.
So they're actually dogfooding it in-house.
It's in beta for enterprise and team plans right now, so individual users can't use it yet.
If my company were on it, I definitely want to try it.
This next part isn't about Claude Code itself, but it's related. On June 22nd, Claude became available in JetBrains IDE 2.
JetBrains, like IntelliJ and PyCharm.
Right? You can now select Claude as the agent provider for GitHub Copilot.
Up until now, if you weren't on VS Code, your only option was the terminal.
So for people using JetBrains IDE like WebStorm or RubyMine, this is genuinely good news.
A lot of people around Sharina are PyCharm users, so they'll probably be happy about this.
It's still in preview, but having more IDE integration options is a step in the right direction.
It was VS Code or nothing for a while. Nice to finally have another path.
Terminal folks use the CLI, VS Code folks use the extension, JetBrains folks go through Copilot. You can actually choose what fits your dev environment now. Now let's run through some smaller updates, nothing flashy, but genuinely useful in day-to-day work. First up, Safe Mode. It's a flag that disables all your customizations and launches in a clean state.
So if a config file or a skill is causing trouble, you can use it to isolate the problem.
Exactly. Think of it as a rescue mode for troubleshooting. There's also the /cd command now. You can switch your working directory mid-session.
Before this, I had to quit the session and restart it in a different directory.
And with /config key equals value, you can now edit its settings directly from the CLI.
Not having to open the JSON file manually is a nice quality of life improvement.
Here's another one. If the connection drops midstream, it can now resume from where it left off.
Wi-Fi cutting out halfway through a long output and having to start over was honestly the worst.
Also, the team create and team delete commands have been removed. Now every session automatically has a single implicit team, no manual setup needed.
So team management got simplified overall.
Right, and one more thing from June. A proposed billing change ended up being postponed, which is interesting.
What happened?
Individual developers pushed back, and after hearing from the community, they decided to put it on hold.
It's reassuring when user feedback actually shapes the direction. All this, just in June alone.
Keeping up with everything is probably impossible. With releases dropping 5 or 6 times a week, checking every single one would leave no time for actual work.
So how do you actually keep up?
Searching the changelog with keywords that relate to how you use it. That's probably the most realistic approach. If you use MCP a lot, search MCP. If you work with subagents, search agent. That kind of thing.
So instead of reading everything, you filter and pick what's relevant.
I also plan to do regular roundups on this channel and highlight the key stuff. So feel free to subscribe if you want to stay in the loop.
I'm looking forward to it.
And if I had to pick one thing from June's updates to actually try, I'd go with ultracode. Multi-agent setups used to be something you had to wire up yourself. Being able to use it directly from the CLI is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that one felt like the biggest impact.
If these roundup episodes get traction, I definitely want to do more.
This was really helpful, thanks Renka.